Hey there, hi there, ho there. It is time to talk trip planning. Do you want to plan in detail or just freewheel it? Or a combination thereof? So let's talk about it, pros and cons, and let's see what's the best fit for you. So this is a big topic and I've got lots to talk about. Some people might think, oh, it's either this or that. It's just real easy to pinpoint why I want to pre-plan, and oh no, I don't want to pre-plan at all. And so let's go over some of the pros and cons and really dig into this topic. So I'm going to start with pre-planning. The pros are, number one, predictability, right? You know where you're going to be every night, you know what sites you're going to see, you're going to get to see everything that you want to see. Another one is you're less likely to run out of gas because your gas stops are pre-planned. And you're going to hit every site or most of the sites that you set your goal to see because you've planned out all the stops. There's always a lunch stop available at lunchtime, or should be a lunch stop available if you've done your planning right. And I really highly recommend this for groups because there's minimal kibitzing or wasted time about where do we want to stop for lunch, when do we want to stop, and things like that. So that kind of minimizes all that kibitzing because it's already pre-planned. The cons for detailed planning: doesn't leave time for unplanned stops and sightseeing. There's a lot of little out-of-the-way places that you might miss, or some beautiful, spectacular views if you don't pad your planning time with enough time to stop and see them. You might miss some really cool things. Another con is if a restaurant or gas stop is no longer open, it can create havoc with the rest of the plan. Again, leave some flexibility for these unforeseen instances. It does require a lot of time from at least one person before the trip to do it properly. And I recommend getting with some other people who've ridden in the area for their advice on things not to miss and things like that. Don't just try and do it all on your own with map planning and web crawling. Get some firsthand advice from people local to the area. That helps a lot. Weather be damned, you're stuck with your schedule. Yeah. We ended up seeing Mount Rainier and seeing none of the views from Mount Rainier on a trip that I went on because it was rainier that day. And it's unpredictable, the weather's unpredictable ahead of time, so it was on the schedule, that's where we went. Might end up pushing it to log miles on a day you're already tired. If you've got deadlines, if you've got a hotel to be at, and you're already tired, you don't have the flexibility to say, you know what, we're just tired. So you really need to think about that in your pre-planning as well. Don't push it too many miles at the end of your trip. So the pros for freewheeling it. Number one, you get a greater sense of adventure and freedom. Can you tell which one I usually do? Okay. You can adjust the length of your ride and destinations based on weather and how you feel each day. You get up at the beginning of the day and you're like, I'm just not feeling it today. I just want to see a couple things. Or, I'm really not up to sightseeing today. What do I want to do without? Where do I need to be next? So you really have the flexibility just to go by how you're feeling each day and set your mileage estimation based on that. Option to stop at any time to see something of interest. And here's another one for if you're planning, check with locals, because many small sites are not listed on maps or in tourist info online. Like, I never would have found that there was a petrified forest in Flora, Mississippi. Who'd have thunk it? Petrified forest in Mississippi. I was riding down a little country road and I see the sign on the side of the road and I was like, what the fuck? There is a petrified forest in Mississippi? Oh my God, let me check this out. And sure enough, and it was really cool and I'm so glad I didn't miss it. So, even if you're pre-planning in detail, leave time, pad time for those unexpected things. But you don't have to worry about that if you're just freewheeling it. you're available and your schedule is open to just see what there is out there. You can keep going longer if you're not yet tired, or you can stop early if it's been a challenging day. If you've run into some rough weather and you were planning to do 500 miles today, but the wind was just buffeting you all day and you are just exhausted at lunchtime, you can make the call to stop sooner and make it a 300-mile day, a 400-mile day, and not push that extra 100 or 200 miles to make that hotel that you've already pre-booked. So it leaves you that leeway to make adjustments. Flexibility to navigate around road availability. If a paved road on the map becomes a goat trail, yes, it has happened a lot, it doesn't have to derail your schedule. You just reroute. And you know what? Sometimes that has taken me to some really, really cool views that I wouldn't have found if I had stuck to a pre-planned route. So that's something to think about. But the cons of freewheeling it, oops, where's the gas? I haven't run out of gas, but I have come close, because where I thought there would be gas, I didn't research it, I didn't pre-plan it, and the only gas station in town had been defunct for I don't know how long, but it wasn't open and it looked like it hadn't been open for a while. So I ended up pushing it to the next town. One time I ended up turning around and going back to a previous town, but I wasn't on a schedule, so it really didn't matter. Okay, I'm hungry and there's no food. If you're gonna freewheel it, plan on bringing food with you. Think picnic. Because every once in a while you're gonna be hungry in a place that there is no restaurant anywhere nearby, and you're not gonna wanna push it with hunger pangs. It's just not fun. So find a scenic spot, pull over, pull out your picnic, and enjoy the scenery. And that's part of the adventure. Then following a GPS might lead you to less than ideal pavement more frequently than a planned route. So be prepared to make U-turns and readjust where you're going if you're only trusting your GPS and you haven't done additional research on roads. There's more debating if you're with other people. There's more debating about where to go next and when to stop. And you might end up with questionable lodging options. Yeah, questionable lodging options. You might find that the only hotel in the area is price gouging. You might find the only lodging available is camping and the weather's not real good. So be prepared to have some surprises in your lodging options if you're freewheeling it. But overall impressions, overall thoughts on freewheeling versus pre-planning. If you're in a group ride, if you're gonna have more than 2 people, 3 or more people, you really need to pre-plan. It's gonna save you a lot of headache because there's gonna be a lot of kibitzing and who wants to stop when. Just pre-plan your route, have decided what sites you want to see for sure, and plan based on those sites, and decide how many miles everybody's comfortable riding ahead of time. Don't leave that up to each day, how are we feeling? Because as a group, you're always going to have somebody who's a little less experienced or doesn't like riding as long a day, and people who want to ride a longer day. So that needs to be pre-negotiated ahead of time, who's comfortable, and always do your pre-planning based on the person who rides the least miles. It's going to be a compromise, and just remember, you don't want to overstress anybody, because if you overstress your least experienced rider or your rider who rides the least miles, nobody's going to have fun. The less flexible you are on your time off, the more important to plan. If you only have a 3-day weekend and you want to see certain things, you better plan the details. Be really, really detailed in your plan, or you're not going to have as much fun. Now, if you're on a 3-day weekend and there's only one place you want to go see and you're open for the rest, that's great. You can be a little more flexible in your planning. I would recommend that would be kind of a hybrid, but the shorter the time frame that you have for your trip, the more detailed your planning needs to be. Also, if you're planning a really long trip and you've only got a set amount of time, you don't want to have to cut your trip short because you didn't plan it properly, because you planned the days too long or something. And always remember to build some flexibility into each day for those, oh wow, that looks really cool moments. If you have loads of time and just want to experience the road, less planning is probably the way to go. Just pick your next end point for the day and some of the sights that you want to see along the way. So say, for example, you want to go see Yellowstone. That is a whole day in itself. Or do you just want to say you've been to Yellowstone and see the geyser and that's enough? You know, you've seen the buffalo, you've seen the geyser, you've been to Yellowstone. You're not really into nature, you don't want to spend a whole day there. Figure out how much time you want to devote to each of the sites before you get there, but be flexible enough that if you see it and you want to stay a little longer, you can stay a little longer and it's not going to mess up the whole schedule. To summarize, the less time you have, the more you need to plan. But if you just want to experience the road for a couple days, just clear the cobwebs out and just get out and see one thing and get there, enjoy it, and then go home, then you can freewheel it. If you have unlimited amounts of time or 2 weeks and you don't really have a lot that you want to go see, hey, take the back roads and enjoy the road, enjoy the ride. Whichever kind of personality you have, if you're a detail person and you wouldn't feel comfortable out on the road not knowing where your next motel stop is, by all means, plan it to the nth detail. But if you're not a detailed person, if you're more comfortable with a little more freedom, then you might not want to go on a group ride with a bunch of people who are very detail oriented. You might want to find a group who's a little more freewheeling. Feel it out, and by all means, if that means that you're just going to go on your own, just do it. Don't worry about it. Now be prudent. If you're going to go freewheeling, it's more important to have things like a road ID badge. I'll put a link about road IDs down in the comments, in the details of the video. Have a road ID, have something like a Garmin InReach or a Spot, and be prudent if you're going to go freewheeling on your own. But don't be scared of freewheeling it, and don't be scared of doing detailed planning. Just pick which one suits your personality and your time frame and how many sites you want to see. So that's it. Time frame, how many sites you want to see, and how flexible do you want to be. Those are the 3 points. I hope this has been helpful. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like, subscribe, hit the little bell once you've subscribed so you know when the next video drops. And get out there and go have an adventure.